Nathan, you there?
Hey, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. You're up bright and early for you in California?
Yeah, man. Yeah. 4:30 every day, man.
Are you really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. My dad was in the Air Force, so he always got us up at like 4. So kind of always
Yes.
ingrained in me.
So it stuck with you, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was a good habit.
Yeah. Well, good, good. What do you do when you get up?
Coffee, work out, do some real estate stuff, all
Yeah.
that jazz for the day gets started.
Yeah, for the day gets. Well, that's cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. For our listeners, I just wanted to sort of describe how I found you. You're an expert in multifamily, but specifically in multifamily. What do you specialize in? Because I know that there's a lot of different fields that you can go into in that particular market.
Yeah, probably the two biggest is the due diligence side.
Okay.
So how someone is, either from doing their paperwork to really the walking of the units,
Yeah.
like identifying what needs to be renovated and how much is it going to cost.
Okay.
Because the one thing you can really get caught in on if you're doing a 40 unit complex, if you miss one thing that's $500 a unit,
Right.
well, that's
Oh,
20
wow.
grand.
Right. Yeah.
And if you do that 3 or 4 times, or even on the paperwork side, zoning. I got caught one time on a zoning issue.
Yeah.
The other is I really probably between due diligence and then really the work-life balance. Hey, yes, you want to do real estate because you want to make money.
Right.
But if your only desire is to make money, then everything that you're trying to make money for is most likely not going to be there when you get there.
Right. Right. Of course. And, I think relationships are super important. And, I'm not talking about specifically intimate relationships, but, relationships and friendships and family in general. What's the point of achieving success if you don't have anyone to share it with? To me,
Yeah.
that seems very lonely and empty.
Well, what's the point of achieving success if everybody thinks that you're a rude, sarcastic cheater?
Yeah. Scrooge, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah. So yeah, there's, and obviously in this world too, the relationship side.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of real estate people, but in the sense of in your community, there's only so many people that are involved in this, and
Right.
so if you develop a reputation, which you will, it's going to be good or it's going to be bad.
Right. Right. That makes sense. I actually come from an acting background, and the entertainment industry is also very small. So
Yeah.
I'm very used to running in small spaces, and you run into the same people like over and over. It's crazy.
And the ones that you have to be concerned is that you never even see them, but when your name comes up,
Yeah.
they can help you with the deal or they can kill it.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Don't call that. You might not even, you probably don't ever even know, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, should we consider Austin for that part? Oh no, don't call him.
Right. Yeah. He's an asshole. Don't do it.
Yeah.
That
Don't
makes sense.
do that. Right. Well, same thing in real estate.
Mhm.
Hey, we need 3 people to come in on this, and they list out, and they're like, yeah, let's call him. No, don't call her.
Right.
Don't call him. You
I'm-
don't even know it.
Right. Right. And I'm assuming when it comes to this and your reputation, I guess the easiest way to build a reputation is just provide value to people. Is that
Value, integrity,
Yeah.
honesty.
Got it? Okay.
Things that most in our society today would say those are the things you don't want to do, right?
Right.
Look out for yourself, not for everybody else. But
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my grandpa, he actually, he earned a lot of money doing real estate in Phoenix. And I asked him, I'm like, Grandpa, what's your secret of success? If you had one piece of advice for me to like become a millionaire, what would it be? He looked at me and he said, always do the next right thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything even related to business.
That's not what you expected him to say, was it?
No, not at all. And, I was expecting like work harder than everyone else or something like that. But, no, his important thing was doing the right thing. And I was like, that's really
I
interesting.
stood with a guy, he's still a friend, so I won't say his name, but
Yeah.
he and his brothers built their company up. They sold it out for $900 million cash each.
Jesus. Wow. Oh my
He put
God.
$135 million cash in the trust account each
Yeah.
for his 2 children.
Wow.
So I'm standing with him kind of like you are with your granddad. And I say, hey, This has been almost 15 years ago. So I'm thinking, I'm going to get this word of wisdom, this, like if you had it to do all over again, like
Right.
what would you do? And Austin, he turned to me and he started crying a little bit.
Really?
And he was like, I would spend more time with my wife and my kids.
Wow.
He said I think they were 15 and 13 at the time. He said they have more money than they'll ever know what to do with, but I don't have a relationship with them.
Right. Yeah. And that the time is something you'd never get back.
But at the time he was doing it, he was building all of that wealth, all of that money for his family.
Right.
But he got it, but then he didn't know them.
Right. Wow. That's kind of a tragic story, because that's kind of the whole point. You're building wealth for your family, and
yep.
At the end of the day.
But you can build wealth and spend time with your family.
Yeah, that's something I'm particularly interested in talking with you about, because, I got my day job, 9 to 6, which is really, 8 to 7, real estate in the morning at like 4 a.m. to before work. And, at the end of the day, I'm really tired, but I also want to keep up with, my relationships, my girlfriend, my friends, my family, just because, last year I was working really hard on my career, but not spending any time with friends. And I started to feel really empty inside, because to me, relationships are the most important thing. As far as a work-life balance, what's sort of your story in that space? How did you get to where you are today in finding that balance?
Yeah, well, you get to a point where misery and pain becomes so uncomfortable. And I was never into alcohol. I wasn't into drugs. It wasn't that type of misery or pain.
Yeah.
But it was the constant conflict or the constant stress. Because when money becomes the focus and that's all you're trying to do, then that's so even if you're there, so I would be at a birthday party, or I'd be on vacation. I was physically present, but I was mentally absent.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, it's affecting me, but then it starts affecting my wife. Then it started affecting my daughter. And then it starts affecting people who worked for me.
Yeah.
It starts affecting people that I don't even know.
Yeah. Right.
Well, at one point, it's been almost 5 years ago, it was just like, hey, I can't sustain this.
Right.
The money that I'm making is the moments of happiness are not worth the other 99% of misery that I'm in now, or stress or anxiety or conflict.
Right.
So we literally, just threw on the emergency brake and made a serious life change.
What did you do?
Sold I had 13 businesses at the time, sold a bunch of businesses, shredded a bunch of things, did away with a lot of partnerships.
Yeah.
Did a lot of apologizing.
Yeah.
Sincere, not the I'm sorry I did this, but, had you not done what you did, I wouldn't have, that's not an apology.
Right.
And it took time. Because once you get to a point in a relationship with someone where they have a perception or reality of you, just because you say you're going to do something different doesn't mean you're going to.
Right. Actions speak louder.
Well, because we've done that multiple times already.
Yeah.
I'm going to help around the house more, or I'm going to do this, and then we don't. Or we do for a day or a week or a month.
Right, but it doesn't stick.
So it basically came down to a choice.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I'm a evangelical Christian, so it was a relationship. It was my faith. It was putting my trust in God. But it all comes down to a choice.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to the gym every day, that's a choice.
Right.
Are you going to take the time to do that? So it really became then, as during the process of becoming, focused on what was I going to do. Mm-hmm. Not what did I want to do or that, but, instead of having 5 or 6 things running through, kind of the hopper of 1 or 2.
Right.
Or if it was 5 or 6, but, scheduling out that time.
Right.
So like I've written several books. And when I first started into that, I was like, oh, I'll write some this afternoon. Well, this afternoon would come. I was like, oh, I'll write tonight.
Right. Yeah.
And then tonight would come and, well, I'll write tomorrow, and 6 months later, I've not written anything.
Right.
So I started blocking out time on my calendar, 30 minutes, 60 minutes here. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
But then I turned off my phone and I turned off my computer and I turned off all the TV. I turned off all the distractions and did that.
Right.
So for someone like you, where you're saying, hey, I've already got an 8 to 5 job.
Yeah.
and I've got a girlfriend and I got family and I've got my health and I've got all of this, well, you're going to have to find a time period in your day where you say, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my real estate this time.
Okay.
So when you sit down at the computer or the phone to do that, you don't do Candy Crush, you don't do Facebook,
Right.
you don't do Google searches, you don't do, when those thoughts come up, oh, I need to do this. No, I've scheduled out this 30 minutes. I'm going to call property owners to see if they want to sell their house.
Right.
Or, whatever you do. So that 30 minutes or that 60 minutes, you do that.
Right.
And you'll find you can accomplish more in a 30 to 60 minute period of uninterrupted time, not, doing other Google searches or Facebook, than you do in an 8-hour period.
Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff.
If you're focused. Now, in that 8-hour period, if you're focused that entire 8 hours, but most of the time, if you start, tracking what you're doing in your off time, you might be quote unquote working, but you got so many other distractions going on and so many other little things you're doing. You're not actually,
right. You're not being productive.
Targeted.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. You're not like focused and dialed in.
Yeah. Like when you go to spend time with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
If I go spend time with my wife, you're going to spend time with a significant other, spend time with them.
Right.
Put your phone down.
Right.
Make sure you're concentrating. The ones who we love and the ones who love us, they want quality time.
Right.
They would rather have 30 minutes of uninterrupted, eye to eye, holding hands, talking than 4 hours of, hey, did you hear what I said?
Right. Yeah.
Does your girlfriend throw that into you where, you're kind of listening, you're looking at her, or you may be looking down at your phone and then she says, what did I say?
Every once, like 1 out of 10, I try to be super dialed in and focused on, on her more than anything else, actually, more than my job, more than real estate. That's one thing that I always try to stay like the most focused on. But every now and then my mind will wander to real estate or marketing or one of my other weird obsessions.
So when that happens, own it.
Right.
Just immediately say, hey, I am so sorry. I got this one thing going on. It just popped in my head and it just, ran, but I'm back, sorry about that. It's a choice.
Right. Right.
When it really comes down, we overcomplicate our lives and our thought. Oh, I got all this. It's really a choice. You have a choice what you're going to do in your time.
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh, I have to work to pay for all the stuff that I owe for.
Yeah.
Then sell all the stuff you owe for and downsize.
Right.
It's a choice, right?
Yeah. Very easy. Wow.
Here's my premise on this.
Yeah.
Outside of the things we don't control, cancer, what other people do, car wrecks, things like that. But the things that we do control are health. The solution to our health problems, unless you have, again, something else, is very simple. Eat better and exercise.
Right.
Finances, spend less money, save more, downsize. Real estate, focus, meet investors, put your investor packet together. There's all these simple things we have to do. The problem is just actually doing them.
Right. Yeah.
That really comes down to the crux of it is, I don't know if it's a fear or, I think it depends on different people. Some's fear, some's time, some is like, well, what if I do this and I fail? Right. What if you do it and fail? If you don't do it, you definitely fail. Right. Yeah. One thing that I have actually have a life coach, and I was definitely experiencing a fear of failure. He's like, no. He's like, no. Every time you fail, you learn something. Yep. You learn something. You learn what not to do. The whole Edison, the light bulb thing. He learned 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb. Right. And but you know what? That fear that you have is no different than anybody else's fear. You know what the only difference is that you're willing to admit it and to address it. Right. And that, you look into real estate and we look around and we say, oh, why, how did that person, you ever caught yourself doing that? How did that person get all of that real estate? Yeah. How'd they build that portfolio? Because they went out and did it. Right. Yeah. They don't, yes, there are people out there who have silver spoons and trust accounts and, they were given what they've got, but that's a rarity. Yeah. It's a small percentage. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's over 80% of millionaires are self-made. Yeah.
Some high number.
Something like that, because they went out and did, you know what the story every one of them would tell you if they were open. There were fears, there were concerns, there were challenges, there were failures, but they had their dream and they kept going after it.
Yeah. Right. I guess that brings me to my next point. How did you get started into real estate?
So I have a very odd story how I got involved in real estate. I've been a serial entrepreneur my entire life.
Really? Ooh, do tell.
26 companies, 152 million in sales.
Wow.
From soy products, nutraceuticals, to consulting, to emails, sent over 1 billion emails, built over 500 websites, had a buy here, pay here car lot.
Wow.
Just all kinds of, not anything really even to do with each other.
Right, yeah.
But I got into real estate because somebody walked into an office one time and said, hey, just randomly, just walked in. It's like, hey, I got an 18-unit apartment complex I'm trying to sell. At that point, I'd only bought my personal home.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. I mean, sure, let me take a look at it.
Yeah.
And I went to 5 banks that I had done banking with in other businesses, and they all said no.
Right.
At the time, I didn't realize, I thought they were saying no to me.
Yeah.
What I realized later on is they were saying no to the deal.
Right. That I've heard. I'm not experienced. I haven't done a commercial deal yet, but what I've heard is the banks typically loan on the deal itself rather than you, which is what they would do.
But they didn't say that. They didn't say like, oh, hey, Nathan, yeah, we know we like you, but no to your deal. I just got the denial letter. So, if you're getting a denial letter, call up in a very nice, cordial way. Just, hey, curious, like, is it no to me, or is it no, like, can you tell me a little bit about this so I can learn how to do it better the next time?
Right.
I ended up with a 6 bank, a small little community bank, 18 unit, Class C, a lot of deferred maintenance, a lot of occupancy issues. Bought it. A week later, there was a 12 unit behind it. They used to be connected at some point. That owner came to him and said, hey, do you want to buy mine? So bought it, renovated it, leased it up, sold it in 8.5 months, and made a little over $223,000.
Oh my gosh, 30 units.
30 units. But I did not know what I was doing. I didn't know what a cap rate was.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of background of some construction and painting from my father's business growing up.
Yeah.
The second deal that I did, 6 months later, I lost $150,000. So I went from riding high on,
like, hey, I'm the next big shot.
I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
A zoning issue. The appraiser, attorney, surveyor all said it was grandfathered in, but the property had been separated. There were 2 apartment buildings, and the setbacks when the buildings were built was 25 feet. It was now 40 feet. The buildings have been split, so it lost its grandfathering.
How did that happen?
So if you have 2 buildings sitting beside each other, and they were built in the 60s, they're grandfathered in.
Right.
But if you split those buildings, and it was a property owner who owned a lot of properties, he gave the 2 buildings to 2 churches, took it as a tax write-off. They had never tried to pull any building permits. The buildings were just sitting there, and they went to sell them. And I bought the front one. Yeah. And ended up 18-month ordeal, had to buy the other building and have it torn down. Wow. I mean, it was at the time, I didn't know how I was going to get out of it. Yeah. Ended up being 18 months and $150,000 mistake. Oh. So I tell anybody, if you're going to buy any, I don't care if it's single family, multifamily, raw land, whatever, you yourself need to call the zoning department. Yeah. Get in writing on letterhead that property is what it says it is.
Writing this down.
Because if you don't, and so you have title insurance on properties. Right. So I went to my lawyer. I said, title insurance, need to make a claim. We made a claim. Title insurance company denied it. So I said to my attorney, now what do I do? And he's like, well, if you want to sue him, I need a $25,000 check. So even though you have title insurance can deny claims. Right. If they deny the claim, the only option is to sue them or do nothing. Right. But at the time there were too many, their denial and what it was supposed to, done. So I just had to, took it on the chin. Right. Yeah. But, so every deal I do now, it takes literally 5 minutes to call down, give them the PIN number, and they will email you a letter on their letterhead signed. A verbal conversation doesn't work because you can't ever prove that later on.
Right. You can't hold it up in court.
Yep.
That makes sense. Wow. So I know that when we began this call, you said that you were an expert in due diligence and work-life balance. Why? I understand the importance of due diligence, but other investors might say like, oh, I'm the king of flipping, or we were actually just talking in a meeting. There's some guy, he niches in meth and death. So, meth lab houses and probate. So you specifically, you became an expert in this due diligence process. Is that right? I'm assuming it has to do with, your origin and losing a lot of money.
Well, because deals I bought, things that I've gone through, things I've learned along the way. I've been doing this for a little over 13 years now. I've bought and sold personally $52 million worth of real estate.
Oh, wow.
So, this is a question I ask people, kind of prove a point here. Who owns fire hydrants?
The city?
County, municipality, or the property owner?
Really?
HOA, single family in HOAs, that fire hydrant sitting in somebody's yard when you're buying that piece of property could be owned by the HOA or it could be owned by the property. When I bought a 66 unit complex sitting on 13 acres, a half a mile of piping running through the complex with 4 fire hydrants. Thankfully, when I called the fire marshal, and was like, hey, I need to get these inspected for the insurance company, which is pretty standard practice.
Yeah.
Call back and it's like, hey, but they're going to be $75 each. And I was like, I've never been charged before. He's like, yes, but we don't own them. You do. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I called my attorney, real estate attorney. She pulled the deed right there. About 3/4 of the way down in the deed was City of Winston-Salem deeds the fire hydrants to the property owner.
Wow.
Thankfully, they were okay. There were no issues. But had I had to replace from the front of the complex all the way back, it'd have been $86,000.
Oh, wow.
Now, here's another side on property, meters. And this is single family or multifamily. But I have saved about $350,000 on renovation costs with this. On old meter boxes, about 25-ish years or older, if you open the meter box and it has a stamp of a power company inside, when the power companies used to install meters, they owned the meter.
Okay.
So I had a 113 unit complex and a 40 unit complex.
Yeah.
And when we opened up the meters, it was stamped there with the energy company. Well, called the energy company. I was like, hey, your meters are out of code. At first they were like, so? But then my attorney wrote a letter and said, hey, these are your responsibility. They need to be brought up to code.
Yeah.
So the power company had to come out and replace all of those meters at their expense.
Wow. Huh.
Now, when they did that, I had to sign a contract of taking ownership of all those meters.
Right.
But that was $350,000 that I got to put in my pocket.
Right. Huh. Wow.
So when you start understanding that due diligence is more than getting a rent roll, getting a copy of the leases, getting, the traditional stuff, and then just walking around and looking at the property. Like I tell anybody, if you're going to go buy a house or multifamily, go buy a $5 plug checker at Lowe's or Home Depot.
Yeah.
Like, why? I was like, do you know how much it is to rewire a 1,000 square foot house or apartment complex? $4,000 roughly.
Oh, God. Wow.
Do you know how long it takes to walk around and plug in at the top and the bottom of every plug?
Couple seconds.
Yeah. When you're walking around anyway. So a minute or two.
Yeah.
I kid you, I've gone into complex apartments before and tenants like, oh yeah, everything works. And I go over and I check, and the right side on the unit, the power's working, the left side's not.
Wow.
And there's a breaker, there's some issue in the breaker box.
Yeah.
Well, to fix that, you've got to replace the breaker, you've got to cut the sheetrock out and rewire some plugs, or you got to replace everything.
Right. Yeah.
Well, after you buy something, it's yours. So if you don't catch that mistake or that issue pre-closing, that's money coming out of your pocket.
Right. It's your responsibility.
And when you run your numbers, so I tell people, when you run your numbers backwards, you got your cost of your property, you got your cost of your renovations, and your potential profit.
Okay.
If you misjudge your renovations, where's that money coming from?
It's going to
Your
come.
profit.
Right.
So if you miss $1,000 worth or $10,000 worth, or, whatever it is, that's all coming out of your bottom line.
Right. Right.
So why not just do it right the first time?
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I know that with due diligence, there could be a lot of pitfalls. So someone who's just starting out, what would you recommend the best due diligence process they do? Because, like how does someone like me know, buy this $5 plug calculator? Is there some sort of resource out there, or do I just have to like call some people and rely on their
a couple
opinion?
different resources. There are home inspectors or property inspectors out there that you can hire.
Yeah.
And they're normally, for a normal size house, $300, $400, $500 is a normal. There are some books out there that you can buy, through Amazon. I have a course online that teaches due diligence. Also do coaching and consulting in that. So there's, free YouTube videos.
Yeah. Right.
It just depends on, do you want to go, put all the information together for yourself? Do you want to go buy a $30 book on Amazon, or do you want to, hire someone to help you do it?
Right. Right. That makes sense.
I think it depends on the size of the deal. I mean, you're doing a $100,000 house, that's one thing. If you're doing a, $1 million, $2 million piece of property, you probably want to hire someone at least you learn kind of the ropes where you can do it yourself.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, making a mistake on the bigger deal, it'd be much more costly.
Yeah. But, even on a $100,000 house, I've had people, clients call up and they didn't catch that there was an old oil tank in the backyard.
Oil tank?
Oil tank. It's a very common, I don't know out west, but in the South, you put in these oil tanks that would run your gas stove or your hot water heater or your furnace during the winter, and it was buried underground.
Oh, wow.
Well, they're about $8,000-ish to take out.
Yeah.
Well, and they're environmental hazards, so you had to take them out once you know about them. So if you're buying a $100,000 house and you're trying to make $20,000 and you got to take an $8,000 tank,
it's almost half.
It's almost half. That's a big hit.
Yeah. Wow.
So, a 5-minute phone call to the gas company to see if there's a tank back there is probably worth your time.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It's probably worth $8,000.
Probably worth $8,000.
Yeah.
But see, people struggle to do little things like that. And this is my premise. Why? They don't see that making them money immediately.
Ah, okay.
So if I'm calling the zoning department, or I'm calling the gas company, or I'm looking at police reports to see what the area is like at night or in the weekends, they don't consider that to be a return on their investment.
Right.
But in real estate, I don't care what kind it is, you make money when you buy something, not when you sell it.
Right.
So if you don't do your homework, your due diligence up front, there are so many moving parts out there that you can get caught on.
Right.
I've bought property before that when you stood down on the ground, the shingles were brand new. Get up on the top, take a ladder, get up there and walk around in it, and it feel like a trampoline.
Oof.
They took brand new shingles and put over old rotten decking.
Huh. Oh man. Wow.
So what do you have to do? You got to take all the shingles off and replace all the decking.
Yeah.
But if you just stand down on the bottom and go, oh, that's a brand new roof.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you get a ladder or get someone who has a ladder and let them run up there real quick and walk around for 2 minutes?
Yeah. Wow.
I don't ever buy a property that I don't get someone to go up on the roof, because I've bought property before where somebody has shingled the front side of an apartment complex.
What about the back?
Side was kind of wooded, so you couldn't see it from the ground.
Wow. Oh,
and they walked up on the roof and walked to the other side, and it'd be old shingles.
Wow. It's kind of deceptive.
Talking about what your granddaddy said about, do the next thing right.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people out there who do not do that philosophy.
Right.
They will cover things up. They will mislead. So it's your job during the due diligence process to find those things.
Right.
Because if you don't, then you're going to pay for them afterwards.
Right. You're ultimately responsible if you take control of the deal.
Yep.
Wow. That's crazy. What's sort of the biggest mistake you've ever made in your real estate career?
The zoning issue was one of the biggest ones.
Right.
The next has been related around sewer issues.
Ooh.
Tubs, toilets, stuff like that backing up.
Yeah.
I've hired cameras, plumbing companies that they run cameras down.
Yeah.
Tried various things. And really the only thing I personally have found that really works is to go get 2 years worth of housing complaints.
Okay. Huh. Okay.
So if you have a property that's been a rental, in various areas, they call it different things, community and business development or housing authority, or it's the place that someone would call if they're renting and the landlord won't fix something.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
if, you can Google that or call your local number, and sometimes they charge you for it.
Yeah.
But I'll go in and get 2 years worth of housing complaints and just sit down with a highlighter, normally 3 or 4 different colored ones. And, green means this and yellow means this. And if I see a pattern of raw sewage in the bathtub,
ooh,
raw sewage in the toilet,
yeah,
toilets won't flush. And, you start seeing this pattern over 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months. I don't need to hire a camera. I don't need to know anything. That there's something wrong in those pipes.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to be replaced.
Right.
If you're in a 40 unit or, even a single family, if you're on a foundation, that's a big expense.
Yeah.
If you're not on a foundation, it's still expensive.
Right.
So, to replumb a 1,600 square foot house, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000.
Yeah.
To replumb a 40 unit complex that's sitting on a foundation is $86,000.
Oh, man.
But thankfully, I called that before I bought it.
Yeah.
So I negotiated with the seller that was an issue that the seller did not disclose.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I have no idea."
What did you do?
There were 47 different complaints over a year period on raw sewage, and the owner said he didn't know about it.
Right. Yeah.
You think he was lying or being honest?
Definitely lying, not being honest. Yeah.
But had I bought that complex, the moment I closed, that would have been my issue.
Right. What did you do? Did you end up purchasing the?
Well, I purchased it. Well, I got a bid. I went and talked to him, sat down and said, "Hey," and I didn't accuse him, because that wouldn't do no good. I didn't say, "Oh, you liar, you." I said, "Hey, I've discovered something here in my due diligence process. Here it is." And I gave him the information.
Yeah.
Because if you're ever going to ask somebody for a reduction, you need to back it up with fact.
Right.
I said, "Here's the quote from 3 different plumbing companies. The average is $86,000. You can fix it before closing, or I can deduct $86,000 from the price of the project."
Right.
And he took $86,000 off.
Huh.
So I went to the bank and I said, "Okay, we're lowering this price $86,000, but I actually need that $86,000 to do this plumbing." So they left my loan at the same amount.
Right.
So I gave him $86,000 less, put $86,000 over in escrow, and then the plumber was able to draw down from that $86,000 to pay for the replumb.
Right. Do you remember how much it ended up costing? Did it end up costing exactly $86,000?
It was like $86,520 or something.
Okay. Like that. Yeah, not bad.
And part of that was part of those funds were put over because we had to move tenants out for a week or 2 weeks and put them in a hotel.
Right. Ooh.
While they were jackhammering the foundation to rerun the pipes.
Right. Wow. Huh.
But if you don't catch something like that, it's yours. As soon as all 50 states, I don't know what they call the legal term. I call it the four corners.
Yeah.
What's in your contract is what you're buying.
Yeah.
And if somebody says, "Oh, after closing, I'll give you $5,000 back." If it's not in your contract.
What's the 4 corners?
The 4 corners of a piece of paper.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. So literally, I don't, again, not the legal term. That's my term. So
right. Yeah.
If it's not in those 4 corners, if it's in an email or it's a verbal conversation and it's not in writing and attached to that contract,
Yeah.
Good luck enforcing it.
Right. Yeah. And you got to get it in writing.
You know, I've been in several lawsuits in my lifetime, and I say this laughingly, and I don't mean this as an insult to lawyers, because one of my best friends is a lawyer, but the only people who win when you sue are lawyers.
That's kind of funny. That makes sense.
The average lawsuit's about 18 to 24 months.
Yeah.
I've won the majority. Actually, I've only ever lost one lawsuit. I've won all the times I've ever sued or been sued.
Yeah.
But I lost time, stress, money.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in a lawsuit, even if you win, you don't win.
Right. Yeah. It does end up costing.
So it's better if you're going to do something, just put it in the contract.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Do you know that a rent roll is useless? Do you know why?
Why?
The rent roll, and this has even been ruled by various appellate courts, the rent roll is a simple regurgitation of what's on the lease.
Huh.
So if I'm renting from you and my lease says I'm paying $700 a month, what does that mean?
Paying $700 a month.
It means I should be paying $700 a month.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that I've paid in the last 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you didn't do a handshake and let me pay $500 a month.
Right.
So a rent roll, all a rent roll does is it takes the lease, puts the name, unit number, date signed, expiration date, security deposit, and rent amount.
Yeah.
A certified rent roll does not mean that that person has paid that amount. It means that that's what the lease says means they should be paying.
Right. Right.
So I bought a complex one. The fourth complex I ever bought, rent roll said it was supposed to be collecting $28,500 a month. Closed on it, and the first month collected $7,500.
Oh my God. That's like 4 times less. Yeah.
Second month collected the same. I was like, so I called the owner. He's not answering his phone.
Yeah.
Start talking to the tenants. They're like, oh yeah, my lease says $800, but I've been paying $300 for 20 years.
Oh my God.
He had gone out and signed new leases with all the tenants at amounts that they were not paying.
Wow. Wow.
I won, but I lost because I now, all my numbers were upside down.
Yeah. What did that do to the property? Did you have to sell it?
How do you verify someone's amount that they're bringing in?
Yeah.
Some people say tax records. Do you know what the IRS does not care about unless you use it in a fraudulent big Ponzi scheme type? If you made $100,000, but you report $140,000, how do you prove that?
Right.
So I've looked at properties before where I couldn't say for 100% surety, but I'm pretty sure the property owner was lying about the amount of money they brought in.
Right. Yeah.
To make their property worth more. So bank statements. The only thing I can go off of is bank statements.
Really?
I want to see someone's bank statements.
Okay.
I want to see how much they've deposited into the account. So this is what I do with people on that.
Yeah.
If you have a property, they say, hey, it's collecting $10,000 a month, but their bank statements show $7,000 a month.
Right.
And they say, oh, well, the other $3,000's cash, and just kind of slip it in my pocket. Okay. So my proposal back to them is that they will escrow $36,000 at closing, $3,000 at 12 months.
Right.
At the end of each month, if I'm supposed to collect $10,000 and I collected $8,000, I keep $2,000 of that $3,000. They get $1,000 back.
Right. Huh.
You find out real quick how honest people are being with that.
Right. Yeah. Can you break down that deal one more time?
Yeah. So, if I'm buying a property from you and you say, hey, we collect $10,000 a month, your rent roll says $10,000 a month.
Right.
But your bank statements say $7,000 a month.
Right.
So I'm short $3,000. There's a $3,000 difference.
Okay.
So what I say to someone is, okay, we got a problem here because we're 30% off.
Right.
So we can either do a massive reduction of the price of the property.
Yeah.
Or you can put $36,000 into an escrow account. Now we're a lawyer closed state in North Carolina.
Okay.
So you could do escrow, or you could do a trust account. If you're a title company, you could put over in a trust account, but it gets put over into a third party.
Right.
So January 1, January 31, I collect $8,000.
Yeah.
Supposed to collect 10. So there's that $3,000 pool sitting there.
Right.
So I'm going to take 2,000 of that to get to my 10 grand. And you as the owner, you're going to get 1,000 back.
Got it.
The next month, if I only collect 7,000, I'm keeping all three.
Right. Right. That makes sense. And when you usually bring up this type of deal to a seller, what do they usually say?
It all depends on well, they're going to be aggravated.
Right.
If you go at them in a way that says, oh, you're a liar, you're trying to cheat me, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
Because, in this world that we live in, I mean, there's no reason to be personal about it. It's business. Yes, it is personal, but stick to the business side. Hey,
right.
I ran my numbers. This is what it is. It's supposed to be 10 grand a month. It's 7 grand a month. I'm 3 grand short, and here's a solution to that problem.
Yeah.
And if they say no, then you have to decide, if normally they say no the first time, well, I'm sorry, I just can't do the deal.
Right.
And then they normally come back to the table. But I've had people before say, no, I'm not doing that. Well, then I have to go and set and run my numbers and assume that I'm only going to collect 7,000. I can't count on that 3,000. And then I have to decide is it worth going and doing that deal or not.
Right.
And some I've backed out of and some I've gone forward with, but I had to adjust my numbers accordingly.
Got it. That makes sense. Awesome. Sorry, just writing all this down, making some notes.
See, so those are the due diligence side of things that you're not going to find in a normal, book or a normal course side, because that's something that has come from a real life experience of how I've dealt with that problem.
Right. Right.
That was a solution, because I run into it a lot. I mean, if you're buying properties that are a little older and, mom and pop have owned it for the last 30 years or, whatever. I mean, I bought properties before where all the paperwork where it was in file folders piled in there.
Wow.
Not in order.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how do you figure out those things?
Yeah.
So that's where I go in, and I really, on that due diligence side, have been able to really help people understand, how do you value a property? How do you buy a property when the finances aren't there?
Right.
Or they're in disarray, or you can't trust them.
Right.
And those are the deals where you can make a ton of money. You can lose a ton of money, but you can also make a ton of money.
Right.
You just got to make sure you've covered all those areas.
Right. Wow. Learning all about this. It's like, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I've learned so many things already, like the fire hydrants and like the sewage and, what you just talked about with the rent roll. That's wow. I feel like this is like a due diligence masterclass.
You drive by single family, or you drive by multifamily during the day.
Yeah.
That's great. What does that area look like at 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask.
Okay. You want to know my solution to that?
Huh.
Go to most police departments have online police reports now.
Online police? Oh, okay.
If you don't, you can pull them manually, but just go pull 6 months or 12 months worth of police reports or police reports for that area.
Got it.
And you'll see real quick. Is there a drug problem? Is there an alcohol problem? Is there a domestic abuse problem?
Yeah.
What's going on in that area, and you'll know by the police reports.
Right. I'm assuming at this point it would come down to common sense. Like when you're reading it, like, okay, there's this, and this, week after week, this is probably a problem area.
Right. And then is it, what level is it?
Yeah.
Is it, weapons, weapons, guns, knives, or is it like, playing the music too loud?
Right. Yeah.
So, the common sense kind of comes into that. But, but if if you're in an area, 3 or 4 block area, and there's an average of 10 or 12, 15 calls every night, and it doubles on the weekends, you got a pretty hot area there.
Yeah. That makes sense. There's a question I have for you. I found a team and we're looking to buy a big apartment deal. Like, I think 150 is like the minimum that we're looking for.
Yep.
And I'm learning a lot of new things, not really my area of expertise at all. And what I'm learning is there has to be someone called a key principal to sign for a non-recourse loan. And they have to have something like a one-to-one, like their net worth has to equal the amount of the loan, even though it's non-recourse. Have you had any experience in this, or finding key principals, or finding big loans for big apartment buildings?
Yes, and yes, and yes. I've got some really good brokers, loan brokers that I've worked with over the years. That one good friend I'm thinking about, he used to work for Fannie, and he's got about 300 different sources.
Yeah.
The best thing about him is, advice on this: if you ever have a loan broker that wants to charge you money up front before they get you a loan, run.
Yeah.
It's actually illegal in most states unless they're a certified broker.
Right.
In the state of North Carolina, you can charge a fee to get a loan, but you got to have like a $50,000 bond and be licensed through the insurance commission or something like that. And 99.9% of the people aren't.
Right.
If somebody's good at what they're doing, they can take a look at your financials and in a minute or two know if they can get you a loan or not.
Right. Got it. That makes sense.
Second, there, getting that key principal on a non-recourse note. Non-recourse notes are non-recourse, but there is a recourse in those, and it's called, I don't know what they call it legally, but it's the bad boy clause. That if you embezzle money, if you steal the HVAC unit, there's a thing there that trips a recourse.
Okay, got it.
So what you'll find with a lot of key principals that could sign is they'd rather be somebody who either gets to know you or knows you, because yes, it is non-recourse, but it could be recourse.
So for example, if I find a key principal and he does his due diligence on me and he's like, okay, you're a good guy, I'll be your key principal, and then I go out and commit fraud, the loan is now recourse on him, right?
On him.
Oh,
right.
Wow. Got it. Okay.
So that's the problem that you're going to run into.
Right.
If it's a savvy investor, like savvy key principal, they're going to understand, like, it's not just a non-recourse. It's non-recourse unless someone does something fraudulent or illegal or something like that. And then it becomes full recourse.
Right. So looking from the shoes of a key principal, if I were a key principal, or if I, had the net worth to, be a key principal on a big deal, what would I do as a key principal to sort of do my own due diligence on, this group of investors to make sure they don't commit fraud and then I'm held responsible?
Yeah. Well, you want to have the ability to have control of the bank accounts and see the deposits and
got it.
In you want to, obviously you're probably not going to have time to do the day-to-day operations.
Right.
But you don't want to get just quarterly reports.
Right.
You don't want to get a report every 6 months. You want to know every month that mortgage is being paid. Every month the taxes are being escrowed. You want to know that the maintenance is being taken care of.
Yeah.
You want to get a report from the city that all the city complaints are being taken care of.
Yeah.
So, you want to kind of get a monthly report that everything is going the way it should be going.
Right.
Because at any point that you see there's a big dip in rents coming in or something's not being paid, then you want to know why. You want to catch it before it becomes a problem. Right.
So I want full transparency on everything that's going on. If I were
not only full transparency, you want full control.
Got it.
You're going to give them day-to-day operations, but if anything goes south or if anything doesn't seem right, their equity still stays in place and the deal's all the same, but you have the right to change the management company.
I can step in and change everything.
Right. Because you're the key, because you're the one that really has your credit, your livelihood, you're the one that could be in a recourse situation.
Right. Can I as a key principal, can I put a clause in the contract that sort of counters this bad boy clause? Saying like,
not because that would be coming from the lender.
Okay. Got it.
And I mean, if I were the lender, I would say no, because then there would be no recourse to it.
Exactly. And if people end up committing fraud and we need to take the property back or somehow get our equity back,
then there's nobody to go after.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So the best practice for a key principal in this situation would be able to have full transparency and full control over this deal, just in case anything happened. Right.
Right.
Okay. Got it.
And that's going to come down. That's not really going to be the contract with the lender.
Right.
That's going to be your operating agreement, or however your LLC or incorporation or partnership is established. Those guidelines are going to be in that document.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that is where, asterisk right here, that's where one of those you say, well, should I go hire an attorney to do that? Or should I go to LegalZoom or one of those?
Right.
I mean, if you're dealing in 150 units, I mean, you're dealing with a several $1 million, if it's $60,000 a door, you're at a $9 million complex. Go pay an attorney $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 to put together an ironclad agreement.
Okay. Got it.
Because why deal with that much money and then get caught on some little clause that's not worded right because you downloaded a pre-populated form?
Right. Right.
And it happens all the time. It calls from people where they've done a deal with even a childhood friend and something went south, but they didn't have a good legal document in place.
Right. Right.
Well, now it depends on, who's got the better attorney, or who does the judge believe. So you just put yourself in a really unnecessary position.
Right. Right. That makes sense. And if we're a group of investors looking for a key principal, where are some of the best places, to find one and connect with one?
That's a good question, because there's not where, go.
Right.
Here.
Go to keyprincipals.com and
family, friends, putting together a business plan.
Yeah.
Because you just go out and ask, hey, does anybody know any good key principals? Like walking into Baskin Robbins and saying, hey, can I have a scoop of ice cream?
Right. Right. That makes sense.
Put together, I'm looking for a key principal to do the, 150 units, class A or class B. Put as vague, but as much information in there as you can.
Got it. Okay. And,
then, family, friends, church, country club, business owners, that becomes one of those. But once you know the niche you're going after, it's going to be much easier to find investors or key principals or even lenders, because you're not just wanting to do a deal, you're wanting to do a specific type of deal.
Right. Got it. And you can attract people that are also attracted to that type of deal.
Yep.
That makes sense. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I guess, do you have any advice for someone just getting started?
Yes. So that's one of the things I do too on a course is, if you're getting started, do a business plan, a page, maybe two.
Okay.
Do an investor packet. And people are like, oh, I can't raise money. Well, the reason they can't raise money is because they're raising vague money. Will you invest with me in real estate?
Right.
No.
What does that mean? Right.
What does that mean? Will you invest with me in real estate on the south side of town in houses that are selling for 80 to 100,000 and need 20,000 renovation and selling for 140? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
And, here's my contractor. Here's, list out. That's one of those that people want to know. It might be your first deal, so it's going to be a little harder.
Yeah.
But show people what you're doing.
Right.
Or at least you're trying to know what you're doing.
Right.
Because if somebody asks you, well, that's great, you're going to buy a house, who's your contractor? If you say, I don't know, you know what you just lost? Any hope of getting that person to invest with you.
Right.
You just say, oh, I've already spoken to A, B, and C and T&T, and I've got 3 different contractors that I've already been talking with. They all do this type of work. And, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to already have a signed contract with them, because you couldn't. You don't have anything, but you need to at least know some of those answers.
Right. Got it. That makes sense.
That's the biggest thing, is just, it doesn't have to be your long-term niche, It doesn't have to be what you're always going to do.
Yeah.
But you need to at least be able to tell in a 30 seconds or less what type of deal you're looking to do with the money that you need to raise.
Right. Got it. Even if you don't have that deal yet, I can go out.
Yep.
Right. Like, for example, I'm looking in the Phoenix market. So what I would do is I would make sure I build my team there, come out with my business plan for my personal niche. And then I would go out to potential investors and say, hey, I'm looking to do this type of deal in Phoenix with, X, Y, and Z. And then is that something you're interested in?
But in the Phoenix market, there's homes you can do there for $50,000 and there's homes you can do there for $5 million.
Right. Right.
So
have
that's
to be super specific on
big difference.
Right.
And so what you'll find in investors too, and this is, just the common sense side of it. You'll find investors who want to do very little risk.
Right.
They want that $500,000 house that just, the person's in a financial bind, but, needs a, pressure wash it and maybe paint the front door.
Yeah.
But you'll find the person who will do the $500,000 deal that needs $500,000 worth of renovations and it's worth $2 million afterwards.
Right.
But it's going to take a year to do.
Right.
Well, those are two different investors.
Got it.
One has a very low threshold for risk. One's like, let's go. I'm
like, let me throw my money. Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But you gotta be able to say that when you're going out to try to find that person or persons. Yeah. That's what your investor packet and business plan needs to be able to detail.
Got it. Wow. So I'm an internet marketer for a company, and one thing we have to know is, okay, who's our target audience? Who's our customer? Where do we find them? And it's strange that, it's just the fundamentals, in this case, it's like, okay, what kind of investor do we want? Why would they be interested in this? And where do we go find them? Like,
so take everything you're doing in your current job, everyone else, and apply it to what you want to do in your real estate.
Right.
It's the same principles.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. It's awesome about the fundamentals.
But here's what's unique in that, it happens in my own life too. It's like, you can do it for everybody else. But then when you start to do it for yourself, it's like, now what do I do?
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting. Yeah. I definitely got to learn to apply those skills. I just got a few more questions and then I'll let you go. If a listener, now theoretically, it's just theoretically, if a listener wanted to partner with you on a deal, what should they bring to the table?
Yeah. So right now in my world of real estate, I'm just acting as a consultant and coach.
Yeah.
So I will partner up in the sense of, like a 50-50 own, I'll waive half of my fee to take it into equity if the deal is moving forward, but I'm not, doing a key principal side. I'm not signing on or bringing money to the table at this point in where I am.
That makes sense.
If somebody's interested in that and they have going on, my website is Nathan Tabor. It's NATHAN, TAB as in boy, OR.com. And I've got a couple of different things. I've got a ministry that I work with and some other things, but there's a tab there for real estate.
Yeah.
And, I like to help people come in, kind of what we've been talking about today. We've talked about a, wide range of, from big deals, 150 units, how do we structure that to, hey, I just want to buy a duplex for $150,000.
Right.
How do I do that?
Right. And that's something you as a consultant can.
As a consultant and coach, while those are vastly different areas, the principles are all the same.
Right.
The principles of business are the principles of business. You got to be able to tell people what you're doing.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And here's that, we talked about in the beginning about the fear.
Yeah.
There's something inside, and it's not the fear. When we say the word fear, people think like clowns or, stuff like that. It's not that. It's that fear of failure. It's the fear of going after our dream.
Yeah.
And there's something about, we can tell people all kinds of stuff. Oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. But we have a really hard time of telling people what we really want to do. Now, once we start doing it, it becomes easier.
Right.
And that's one of the biggest steps if you're trying to get started is you got to start being, honest with yourself and honest with others. This is what I want to do. And this is why I want to do it. But you know who normally the biggest distractors in our life? Or our family and our friends.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
Oh, I'm going to do this. You're going to do what? You can't do that. And it's like, oh, well, if they don't think I can do it, then I can't.
Right. Naysayers.
And putting it into writing, even for our family or our friends, really changes their mind as well.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So if I'm someone who's like, hey, I'm the multifamily man, you know, I want to do everything from, at least right now for myself, 4 units to 10 units. Like that's what I want to focus on, or 5 to 10. Is that sort of what you mean by going out there and telling people like, this is what I want to do? Okay.
Well, because it comes down to that's the money, right?
Yeah.
You know, I want to do multifamily. Well, do you want to do $200,000 deals, or do you want to do $20 million deals?
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, you're going out and saying, I want to do, you know, units under 10. Well, you know, just rough numbers, knowing a little bit about the Phoenix market, that's a $500,000 deal.
Right. Yeah.
And below. So then, you know, well, $500,000, I need to raise 20%. So I got to raise $100,000.
Right.
Well, now you've really started to define your niche, what you need to do. So you need to find a lender who will lend up to 400,000. You need to find somebody that invests up to 100,000.
Right. Yeah.
That changes who you are from, I want to be a multifamily investor, to I want to do multi-family investing right now up to $500,000 deals.
Right. That makes sense.
Big difference.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Thank you. You provided so much value, you know, due diligence, you know, so many things, the key principles, and, you know, defining your niche. I guess, for other listeners out there, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah. So go to my website, Nathan Tabor.
And I'll put a link in the description too.
Yeah, perfect. There. And then of course, you know, from there, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Facebook, and I've got others. And you know, we talked about this a little, I think last week when we had a phone call. I'm an evangelical Christian, but I'm not walking around with my Bible underneath my arm. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not a judgmental person. I've got my beliefs. Others have their beliefs.
Yeah.
But I do come from a very, you know, point of faith. But it comes from the, like, hey, everybody has a set of morals and values.
Yeah.
I don't care who they are. Some people, you might say, well, they have very little morals and values, but they have a set of morals and values.
Right. Because
there's certain things they will do and there's certain things they won't do.
Right. Right. Even villains have a code.
Yeah. Even villains have something they won't do.
Yeah. Yeah. So
when we start looking at this, and we start looking at real estate, and we start looking at work-life balance, and we start putting all that together, we've got to really look at what's the ultimate thing we're trying to achieve. What do we want to be known as?
Right.
When people mention your name, what do you want them to think of?
Right.
You know, in the faith world, we call it our testimony. In the world, we call it our character.
Yeah.
Well, they're both the same. I mean, what do you want people to think about you?
Right.
Well, you know, we laugh about, you know, I'm a hardcore businessman, but you know, you don't want to be that. You don't want to be the person that people say, you know, and I was that person for a while. He'll do anything to get a deal done.
Yeah.
And that's just not, it might be fun for a moment to be like that, but ultimately, I mean, you want to be able to help others. You want to be able to, you know, if people are trying to achieve something in their life, to help them, because that old phrase of it's better to give than to receive.
Yeah.
There's some joy and contentment in helping others. But, you know, what I found in my life, the more I help others, the more I get to where I want to be. But then when I get there, I'm able to enjoy it.
Right. Yeah. That's what I found a lot of successful people say is, you know, when I start bringing other people up, I naturally get brought up as well with them.
Yeah. You know, we call it servant leadership is something you'll hear a lot, but that goes contrary to a lot of the real estate courses out there. It goes contrary to most of the Hollywood media, because you should be defined by your material things.
Right.
Where do you live? What do you drive? What do you wear? Well, if that's a good definition, then why do a lot of people in Hollywood have alcohol problems and drug problems and misery problems?
Yeah.
Because money doesn't buy, money can buy happy moments, but money doesn't buy happiness.
Huh. That's a good quote.
You think about this, happiness is an emotion.
Yeah.
You can be happy driving down the road, convertible top down, listening to your favorite song, and someone rear ends you. Do you know what's going? Happy.
Right.
Now, if you're content or you're joyful, that same thing can happen, and it will be frustrating. It will be annoying. It will be that. But then you quickly come back to what's the bigger? Hey, I'm really glad I didn't get hurt in that.
Yeah.
I'm really glad the other person didn't get hurt.
Right. It's just a car.
It's just a car. It's just a material thing. It can be fixed. So that is when I talk about work-life balance and real estate and kind of where I'm coming from and what I do, it's like, that's where people need to get to.
Right.
Is a point where, hey, what's the most important thing here?
Right.
And it's not money.
What is it?
It's being content. It's being joyful. It's being a person, like your granddad said, it's being integrity and character.
Yeah.
Because in the middle, at the night when you lay down, you know what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
You know if you're a cheat. You know if you're a liar. You know if you're a thief. Or hey, I'm trying to be a good, decent human being.
Yeah, I think it's really important you're bringing this point up, because a lot of people who are going to be watching this are people who are just getting started, people who are like hungry to not only get their first deal done, but hungry investors, want to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have this foundation of, okay, look, once you get that, then what? Really having that foundation of,
yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with money. Go make as much of it as you want. Go, be a millionaire, be a billionaire.
Yeah.
But do it the right way.
Right.
Don't wake up in 20 years and you're, no one wants to be around you, or no one likes you, or you don't know your kids.
Yeah.
Or your spouse is gone.
Right.
It doesn't always, the mindset is, and I've been there, where it's like, I gotta work. I gotta provide for my family.
Yeah.
We're providing for our family, or we're providing for our future, but we're not enjoying the moment.
Right. Right.
And there is a way to do that. There's a way to enjoy your current life and spend time with your family and friends and your faith and all of that, and prepare for the future. But it's a choice.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for, doing this interview with me. I know it's gone almost over an hour now. I just want to thank you for your time. I know must be pretty valuable. So thank you.
Well, no, man, I appreciate you having me on, because I look at this as, just helping others. I like sharing with people. First when I started doing this, all I wanted to do was tell people about my success.
Yeah.
Or my successes. And I was like, that led me to a point of just like, misery. So I need to tell people about what I could have done to avoided those things.
Right. Because then that can help them avoid the pitfalls, when they're going on their own journey.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, I'm a marketer. I've, said earlier, I've had businesses and sold $80 million online with one company.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And, the real estate world today is mostly based around greed and pride.
Right.
How much money can I make, and how much do I have?
Right.
And I've kind of taken the opposite approach, and there's nothing wrong again with money, but of, hey, do it the right way, so when you get there, you can enjoy it.
Right.
And that's not the sexy sell. That's not the great motivational Tony Robbins speech.
Right.
Type, but it is the better way to do things.
Right.
It was kind of like what I like what your granddad said earlier. What was his exact phrase?
Yeah. Always do the next right thing.
Always do the next right thing.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to do the right thing.
No.
It's easier to take shortcuts.
Yeah.
And you can take a shortcut that's not wrong.
Right.
It's not illegal. It's not unethical. It's not, it's not anything, but it's just not a shortcut you should take.
Right. Yeah.
If you can take a shortcut in your due diligence, you're not going to hurt anybody really but yourself, maybe your investors, maybe the bank.
Right.
There's nothing illegal about it, but why do it? Why not just do it right the first time, so you don't have to come back and fix your mistake in a month or 6 months or a year? Just take the time to do it right the first time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You save a lot of time and money too. Sure.
Save a lot of time and money.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on your podcast. I really appreciate your time and letting me.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan.
With your audience. And, if anybody has any questions or comments, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll see what I can do to help you. And if I can't help you, I'll find somebody hopefully who can.
Yeah, cool. So I'll put your website in the description, nathantabor.com. Listeners, go on there, connect with him. And thank you so much, Nathan.
All right. Thanks, Austin. Have a good day.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.